And I'm a member of this organization several years ago. Being developed and really grown. It's exciting to see all the faces out here and the support of the community. 8 years ago, we produced a magazine, a community information directory, visually pursues fine arts, training, government agencies, anything you needed to know about Laguna Beach, and a history theme. We mailed it directly to every home, and it was very well received. We provided some publications to the archive here at the Historical Society. We've been on through Orange County and Los Angeles in 35 different regions, producing 400 glossy magazines. We mail them in every home in each region. And we're back to do Laguna Beach once more. We're very excited to be doing this. We'd like to work in cooperation with the Historical Society to help our archive. It will be a 4-color glossy magazine, same style publication. It will be mailed to every home in Laguna and South Laguna. And what we're doing differently this time is we will be providing them to retailers as well for distribution. For the people coming into Laguna Beach during the first season that would like magazine rack to hand out to people coming into the area. The editorial profile of this publication, as are all the publications, will be dealing with the Native Americans, the Spanish-Mexican rule and transition, pioneers, founders, leaders, what happened during the turn of the century, obviously the art and how it developed the area, incorporation, how the church and the community evolved here in Laguna Beach, historical landmarks, what happened during the wars, World War I and World War II, and bringing it forward today. And special interest in dealing with the economics, geography, communications, events happened during the Depression, architectural heritage, human interest stories, cities, and any national history, and the history of actually street names in certain areas. So, if you have any questions, like I said, we'd like the support of the Historical Society. We will be providing the organization with additional copies to sell at the Smith House at no charge. And we'd like anybody who feels like they'd like to contribute, we'd like to make assignments and go forward with this project. Very much.
When do you think you'll be coming out?
We're targeting September.
This year?
This year, absolutely. In fact, I live in Laguna Beach, and I've been traveling to some of these other areas, and this is my hometown. I've been here 15 years, and I'm really excited to be back here. And I'll be selling it myself, so it's very special part of this project. Thank you. Begin.
The neat thing about it is it doesn't cost anything to pay for by outside.
You're right.
Another thing I wanted to bring up is finally after 5 months I put together the photographs again. Raised the price to $3. We have 30 different views. We have another 20 that will be available in 2 weeks. And I'll bring it up to 50 different photographs that are available for sale. Right now for sale at the market, the market. That's how it opens, and we have dozens of staff that's being sold there. And if anybody wants any tonight, they're on the table in the back of the room at the end of the meeting. And we'd like the meeting to start now. And Mark would like to, this is Mark Boston, local lifeguard.
As I mentioned, I work currently as a lifeguard lieutenant for the city of Laguna Beach, and I've worked as a lifeguard for the city for 20 years now. I've lived in the city for 30 years, and I'm kind of a newcomer to with some of the people that are here in the room. When Jane first called me and said, hey, let's get this thing together, let's pull some of the old slides together, some of the old photographs, and get some old stories going, I said, great. So immediately I called one of the gentlemen in the room, Ed Hobart, And Ed told me, he said, Mark, I'll tell you what. He goes, after some negotiation, he said, I think I can help you out. He said, I'll tell you what, I'll get you through 1935 and you can handle it from there. So I thought, well, I'm going to need some more help in 1935 here. We negotiated a little more, and Ed said, okay, I may talk about the 40s a little bit. So I got on the phone then, and the publisher started this magazine. He said, why would I need an article on the lifeguard department for your first issue? So I dug up all this stuff, and this is quite old. Not the greatest research, but the next year,
Craig, you know,
yes, sir.
you couldn't wear shorts. You had to
That's
wear
right. Yeah, it was illegal to wear just shorts. You had to have a top. And the next year, we're looking at it now. They held a competitive examination.
In the previous slide, there was a woman dressed in a lifeguard's uniform. You made no mention of that.
She was a swimming instructor who was brought down as an examiner, I believe. Ed will tell you. According to Ed, the question was about the woman that was in front of the tower, and according to Ed, that was a Red Cross examiner that came down and oversaw some of their training techniques and things.
His name is Terwilliger. Bigger than I am.
Who was the girl?
That was her. That was Terwilliger.
He said it was Shattuck.
Oh, that girl was Harriet Shattuck.
The girl was Harriet Shattuck.
Yeah.
In the earlier shot.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And her father owned the lumberyard in Upland.
They used a bike, I guess, to get up and down the boardwalk on the way.
Nolan said he was working out because he's going to the University of Arizona.
I think you need to put the seat up a little higher.
There we go.
There's a tower you don't see.
Yeah. Again, there's some historical discrepancies or some anomalies in our historical digging. But Ed has this tower dated
1932.
32.
That was a local bathhouse right back of it.
Right.
Well, that was the Smith Hotel.
I know.
But very few people know about the Smith Hotel.
Yeah, this is about the time that Dana Lamb and Calvin Beardsley, they gone to summer.
Dana Lamb was gone.
Yeah, they were already gone. Okay. We had, at one point, they were only guarding Maine and Woods Cove, and Beardsley was stationed there, wasn't he, in 1930? In 1930?
Yeah.
Okay. And then
That's Margie Burns.
Margie Burns. You notice up here they've got a landline and a diamond can. These were kept in the tower, in the station at that point. What did you guys keep in the long hanging locker here?
We kept extra cans.
Extra cans. And
Did you see the article in the newspaper, the fellow from Huntington Beach that invented those, just died here the other day.
no, I didn't.
He was a surfer, and he invented these lifeguard buoys and surfboards, fins for surfboards.
Oh, you mean Tom Blake?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't from Huntington. He was from, actually, he's from Wisconsin. In fact, I don't know if I have a picture in. What year is this?
Now that skiff was made by Coronado.
Coronado.
And then the background.
Well, you can see Ocean Avenue here.
That was Ocean Avenue.
That would be back up, yeah.
Yeah. And look, that was, we're talking about Village Laguna. We're talking real Village Laguna. This is lifeguard training in 1932?
1930, 31.
31.
That was Bill Shields on the left-hand side.
He used to own the, for those of you who are newcomers here and don't remember Bill Shields, I don't know how many of you are, but he had the hardware store, Laguna Hardware Company, and he and Ed, can you all hear me? Is that better? Okay. Ed and Bill Shields went on one of these incredible rescues, and I'll give the brief and then Ed can tell the story. But at any rate, they got a call that there was a bunch of people had been swept into a rip at Doff Island, Treasure Island. And so
the call had gone into the lifeguards, and the lifeguards called the police chief, and Ed, I'll let you take it from there, because this is a great story.
It's okay, hang on to that. Well, we had no emergency equipment like they have today with sirens and all of this stuff. If one of us owned a car, great, we used it. But Chief Abe Johnson had this big four-door Packard, canvas top. And so he would take us down, and we were going down 35 at least, 35. I was standing on one running board there. I swear to God, I could have gone like that and made the car go faster. But he said, Edward, we'll get there in one piece. So we got down to this place that Craig is talking about. Golf Island. There were, by the time we got there were 4 people in the water. Started out with just 1. Somebody went out to get them, and then somebody loaded the skiff up and went out around the island and come in, and they capsized. So by the time we got there were 4 people to take care of. But these, I might give you a rundown of who these people are.
Okay, we'll trying to raise it for the people in the back here. So
Oh, I see. Well, they're out there.
Good.
Okay, of course, that's Dana Lamb standing. He was the chief lifeguard. His father was the tax assessor of Orange County. That's Bill Shields on the end, Harriet Shattuck, Cal Beardsley, Dick Malone, and this guy's name I forget completely. I guess I took the picture.
See, I think I've got his name down.
You got his name down?
I might have it.
Well,
Back to the historical
that
document.
really came up with it. Compared to what I had. Okay.
No, it wasn't. Okay.
Okay. There we are exercising at surf rescue. That's me in the lead. Yeah, I don't recognize any of those other 3 people. But you see the old tin cans that we had. If you weren't careful, they would beat you to death in the surf. That's what they did. You guys really came up with some good stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Well, I mean,
We took it all out of your book.
I know. I mean, to get it on slide so quickly. Okay, there is Harriet Shattuck, and that is me. I can always tell the way I stand. And that's Dick Malone and Dana Lamb on the, and who's in the
Who's
forward
in?
sense, I don't know. I don't know. Oh,
You had a perfect day. I mean, there's not a wave in sight.
not a wave in sight. Not a wave.
Perfect training day.
There's Harriet Shattuck with his hand up as a road marshal. And I'm, for some reason, trying to get into the stern of the boat. And Dick Malone is in the forward set. Dana Lamb is at the after set. That's more than like the rear view. That looks kind of like Cal Beardsley.
It does, doesn't it?
But, yeah. Oh, gee. These shots of what we're doing with the old pier. That's what we have.
Here off the main beach, or?
That's right. It was off of the
Yeah,
Bird Rock.
the main beach.
Yeah.
That's right at the main beach. And that's the old pier that went out there. Okay, let's try the next one. So we can get
What's really interesting to note is that they had they had about 6 to 8 guards during the early years of the department. But because they had a pier out there and there was usually a motorboat, when they got extended rip rescues where we get really big surf and big rip currents go out from Main Beach, they were often able to use a motorboat off the end of the pier as a patrol vehicle, and it augmented their rescue capacity. And to this day, we still have to launch through the surf with our rubber boats, our IRVs as they're called, inflatable rubber boats, or to bring the lifeguard boat up from Dana Point where it's kept down there with the state and the harbor department boats. But they had that capacity then, which was actually, in a way, a lot quicker for them because they could always get the pier operator to augment their rescue techniques. And we'll see a slide later on of some clippings that Ed had in his scrapbook, and they mentioned how they're able to effect a mass rescue by using the boat. Yes, ma'am.
What happened to the 4 people in the room?
Oh, well, he
about rip times. I was in the tower, in the old tower there, and I looked up towards the Hotel Laguna, and there was a massive rip going. I mean, that thing was churning and was going up. Right in the middle of it was the airport. Never will forget. So I ran down the beach and headed right where they're letting to take advantage of this current going out. And so I came up to her and I said, I'm going to get you in, okay? So I flipped her over in her back and do a cross-chest carrier. You grab this person right in. There you go. Kerchunk, kerchunk, kerchunk.
got me on his hip.
That's it. And so on the way in, this young woman had the nerve to ask if I knew what I was doing. I said, I know what I'm doing. Again, the question came up, well, do you know what you're doing? I said, no, what am I doing? Repairing my bathing suit. So I got her in, okay. She came out with her mother the next day with a carton of cigarettes, and not a one of us smoked.
Her specific question, the way Bill Shields told the story of Ed's rescue is they all pull up in the chief's touring car. They jump off, they got their cans, and they're looking around, and they see this huge flock of people standing there, frozen, and all these heads bobbing in the rip outside. And at that point, they haven't quite pulled up. They're pulling onto the bluff, and the chief hits the brakes, and the big touring car swings around like this, and they all make this flying leap into the sand, and then they go make the rescue. But it's such a great image of this big Cadillac touring car like Elliot Ness pulling out with this, all the guys leaping off the running boards. And I'll let Ed take it from there. What happened? You know, Bill said that you guys ran down, you grabbed a couple of inner tubes and formed a human chain to get the first people in, and then you began ferrying them back and forth.
Well, that was, we had this call of, that slanting rock at the end of High Street Park. We got a call one time that there was children were on there and they're being swept off. So I think that was the year Brown was on. So Brown and I went up there. Nevertheless, went up there.
It's William Brown?
No, not it was after Willie Brown. I forget who went.
George Browner.
No, not George Browner. I've got the guy's names here in the article. But nevertheless, so I said, I'll get the kids that have been washed into the soup there. So I went in and pulling them out one at a time. And whoever was with me got the other kids off the slanting rock. And I guess, did you get the photograph of this thing that showed the children rescued?
No, I didn't.
Oh, the crowds on the beach. The crowds on the beach.
And I've got a picture of the article.
The crowds on the The crowd on the beach was my mother. Up at the top of the path there, as each child came up, she had her finger in his face like this. You weren't paying attention to what you were doing, and my boy had to go out there and rescue you. So that's when my mother was a crowd. What do you got next?
The pier, the hurricane, 1939, the story goes, tore down.
Yeah.
And they actually had a full-blown hurricane come spin right up the coast
I
and
came home on leave and they had a big storm and it
tore it down.
And it went down in 39. And the breakers were breaking on the corner of Broadway and Coast Highway. The wind was blowing so hard and the surf was high and big.
This week's coastline is a lot of water.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 36.
36, good. We got some IDs coming up here. Season ends for Laguna Beach lifeguards. Let's see. Cafe patron season signals. Boatman saved.
But there's,
And then there's
Bill Shields over my shoulder and Dick Malone is behind.
you doing a drill?
And we're demonstrating how to make a rescue in a big surf.
Yeah, you can see the buoy dragging behind them. And given the idea that this is probably a pretty big surf because that looks like it's about 20 yards out from them. There's a couple of 6-foot-plus guys here and the wave tops over their heads. So that's looking like a pretty good day for a rescue training.
It was a good day for a demonstration.
Yeah. These are more clippings from, I shot these from a different angle. Yeah, the report, this is really neat. They had their first, they gave a report to the city council, and now for 4 years, was this 33 that you gave that report? It looks like it, 33 or 34.
Yeah.
I did a report, 35.
35?
Go ahead.
And they had an absolutely flawless record, and they set such a good example that in the 65 years of the department's history, we've only had one drowning on a garden beach. And that was because the guard was in the water at the time making another rescue. 65 years, that has to be millions and millions of people. Dale?
They stand up back there so I can see where they are.
He's over here, he moved on you. Hey, Dave?
Yes.
Stand up for us, sir. We got a picture of you in here, too.
I'll see you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, these are more advanced scrapbooks there. Yeah, tell them about your...
Yeah, well, now that was, that certificate was issued in 1930. The first year that I was down here. I really found my place with that ocean, that first summer that I came down. So I immediately got into the guys there. In fact, I noticed that every night that they would go out and bring the lifeguard skiff in. So I said, one night I walked up to Dick Malone and I said, hey, can I go out and get the skiff? And Malone said, can you roll? Yeah, I can roll. So I went out and got the skiff and came in. Waves meant nothing to me. Absolutely nothing. Here comes this thing up behind me and I'm blowing away. And the stern gets up like this and then it broaches and it rolls over and I break the sword over my shoulders. And Malone comes down and picks me up from underneath there. and then Mrs. Dunham, who is the president of the American Red Cross, she tells this story. She says, and the first time I saw Edward, he was being dogged with iodine. Like Dick Malone. You can imagine daubing iodine in abrasive Oh, that was something else.
Was that Malone's way of saying thank you, Sam?
Oh, yeah. He loved to do things like that. Okay, here. you take it.
Dave, you're in this shot, aren't you? Aren't you on the end there?
On the left end.
Yeah.
Who is it?
Dave Tani? Can you ID that? That's Brennan McClellan.
Standing on his toes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, look at him.
Look tall, you know.
You guys have a pretty tall crowd here. These guys are all 6'3", 4". Dave, what year was that?
Why don't you go do that, sir?
Yeah, you want to
year?
come on up and talk.
On the right end is junior golf.
Can you go up and stand by the screen so we can get you?
I haven't seen this turkey in over 50
This
years.
is junior golf. Bud Carrigan.
I haven't seen this turkey in that one.
Well, that's what Kerrigan.
Yeah. Hank Woods, Bill Walters,
Skinny Walters, yeah, Bill Walters.
Brennan McClellan, George Browner, Dave Tawny, and I can't. This is the guy that was
That good-looking guy there in the corner is Dave Tawny?
Absolutely.
Dave, what year was that? 35?
No, I think it was
38.
36 or 37.
36 or 37.
Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you a story that involved.
Thank you.
A group of us were surfing up by the pier, and there was nothing but rocks underneath there, but the waves that coming over that pier. Remember that day that we were surfing there, and a group of us were going out, and here's Dave Tawny up on the top of this, like this far out of the water. I don't know whether he was yelling at the top of his lungs or not, but he had the best ride of the day. He had the best ride.
You will notice that now we have the tower on the beach. So now we get back to the mystery. Just when was the lifeguard tower moved? Now, Ed and George Griffith, Dave, you may have some recollection of this too. Brennan told me when he was still alive many years ago that he recollected that it had been the winter of 1932-33 that they had moved the tower. Ed believes it was later. Dave, do you have any recollection?
I think it was 35 or 36.
35 or 36?
35, because after the guard was 36.
And they brought it in there.
Yeah, but of course, I was sort of the master lifeguard. They pushed me toward down to Victoria Beach and didn't want to hear it.
I think they still do that.
They tried to hide me.
Mark, what do you schedule for? Outside
Where do you hide them, huh?
But I think it was 36, 35. or 36.
Dave, who's the gentleman standing in the white ducks?
I can't see from here.
Okay. Well,
They're still using those old cans.
oh yeah.
I don't recognize it.
What was that guy's name? I said Bill White. The guy in the swimming pool.
I don't know. We tried out that.
Oh,
This is about 1945 or 46, and this is a group of lifeguards. I think Tompkins is in that.
I think this is Keyhole Tompkins, who ended up on the fire department, and also they called him Burrhead Drever. He also ended up on the fire department, and his son works for the fire department, and of course Keyhole's son was a famous surfer in Laguna Beach, now living in Hawaii.
I think this is my cousin Tom Van Rensselaer. And that one, then you remember, any of the Van Rensselaers. And that surfer, does anybody remember?
What year around with the boards and
I
everything?
think it's 45 or 46.
Yeah.
This is we take a big jump now. We don't have too much documentation, but this is 1958. John Creed, who's now president of Chart Houses. Chad Burton,
That's Phil Jones.
Phil Jones, excuse me, Chad Burton here,
Okay.
Phil Jones, and Dean Westgard. We don't have an idea on that one, I'm not sure. who that-
And again, just standing on the old boardwalk, as everybody in the room remembers, just, the highway wasn't on your back then. You just had those great old buildings, and you would sit there and feel like it was, that highway was a million miles away.
That was my cousin Ned Van Rensselaer's badge, circa about 1954-55. He gave it to me after he quit when I started guarding. I still have it. This is from Dale's period. Dale, are you in that shot?
I don't know.
Chief Laverne Duggar, who all of you may remember, Dean Westgard, Gene DePaulis, Rod Reel, Jim Kelly, I remember. We got Parletts up there.
Jake's in there.
Dennis Jacobson on the right line.
Right. That's Jake on the right lower.
Oh yeah, this is Jake.
Where's Parlett?
Parlet's up there.
Who was that one you just went into?
John Parlett, Dennis Jacobson.
Dennis Parlett was there.
Well, yeah, a little harder. He lost it. I think when he was in high school, I think John was like a senior in high school. He had got an infection and they gave penicillin and he reacted to it and he lost his hair.
But that was our era when we were down there.
This is, we used to have these lifeguard beauty contests. They were held right at the tower. You can see the tower in the background. And that's Kiwi Haynes and
Jim Herdman.
Jim Herdman, myself, and I'm trying to remember the girls' names. Lindy King. This is Lindy King. And Carolyn Berry. John, did John show up tonight?
No, he's not here.
And it's really funny, Dale. You probably remember this. This evening, we had a big girl. It was Candy Calhoun. She was John's girlfriend. She won and got crowned the queen that year. John had hurt his back and he couldn't lift her, so Reel tells me, go in there, Lockwood, and help him lift it. So, of course, John being 6'6" and me being 5'6", I got all the weight. And she was a big girl. There's another in front of the lifeguard tower. You can see the deck here, and we used to have lifeguard seats up there.
Could you imagine trying to do this in the 90s or even the 80s? It would be, it would be sexist, it would be, bad image for the lifeguards and the whole deal. But this was a big part of their summer. They would pick the bikini beauty from the beach and bring them down and see who won. Just a different time, different era. This is 1966 or something.
There's Paul Goffis with junior guards, and
there's a lot of people a lot of names anyway you'd probably recognize here. This is Billy Brown, and of course his dad
was like
Don Brown guarded here. Earl Wellsbury and his brother Mike Armstrong, all local Laguna kids. He went on to be a famous surfer. He's living up in Cayucas now. Brent Jameson, Jim Hyde. There's John Enfield,
right.
Doug and Denny Smiths of Smith's Construction and stuff. A lot of kids. You guys may even recognize a couple of these names are slipping, but yeah, that's a good group.
It's amazing that of our junior lifeguards, the high percentage that become rookie lifeguards and then go into becoming regular guards.
Shortly after this photo was taken, Dale Gear, who's sitting here, recognized a need that we had the young kids, and then we lost them from about that 16, 17-year-olds, and then they jumped in at 18 to become the lifeguards and go guard the outside beaches. And Dale recognized the need to bridge that gap, and he started what we call our rookie lifeguard program. They're not like the junior guards. They're 100% lifeguards. They go through all the training the lifeguards do, but they get direct supervision on your main beach down here. And so they get a very intense, ongoing training program as they make their first mistakes and miss their first rescues, recognizing them, and go to their first critical medical aids. And they have this direct supervision. And this program that Dale started has turned into basically the bread and butter program of Laguna Beach, because we're not like Huntington Beach and Newport Beach and San Clemente, where you can be in what they call a zero tower on the pier. You can pick up your binos and you can see your whole stretch of beach. And you can call out the tower, hey, number 18, you got a rescue, go right. They're in these isolated coves. The backup is on the highway, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes away, sometimes longer depending on the scenarios. And you need some highly trained and confident people out in these isolated coves. And it's a seasonal job. And Dale started this program where now we can take these 16, 17-year-old kids. They get a Main Beach rookie program training under their belt. They have the confidence that they can go out and handle these isolated coves with themselves or one other lifeguard. So it's really been a great program. Other departments have come to us and tried to duplicate it for their particular scenarios because it has been so successful. And many of these people here, Billy and Earl and John Infield, a lot of them, Mike Catino, Dirk Van Dusen, Charlie Ware, a lot of them were Dale's first group that he said, hey, look at this potential. Local kids, good, strong kids. We need them now. Let's give them good, strong supervision at 16 and put them on those outside beaches at 17 and 18. So real important program.
Interesting historically is to look in some of the evolution of equipment here. If you're looking at a Peterson rescue tube, an inflatable Peterson rescue tube, they will be his group 35, 36 day. You were the first guys to use these, weren't you?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. First guys to use inflatable rescue tubes. Now, this is the kind we use now. They're non-inflatable, they're sponge rubber, and they become the standard for Laguna Beach. A lot of departments you'll see use, if you watch Baywatch, they use a little plastic rendition of that earlier diamond can. But this allows a victim to be secured into the belt. And it clips around them like a water ski belt, and their hands are free. They don't have to hold on to something, and they can actually have a little more, be of a little more assistance both to themselves and themselves. Dale, what year was this? 65, 66?
Probably.
Yeah. Well, I think, Dean Westgard, John Parlett, Bill Rowley, still here in town. Who's that, Dale? Remember him? What's his name?
Stan.
Yeah, these guys.
Dan Henry.
Yeah, Henry. Punky Parlett.
About John Cunningham.
Dale. Yeah. Dale's in there. There's me, there's Rod. Dale, this is you right here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Dale. Rod Reel, Eugene DePaulis. Is that you, Rod?
Yeah. Art Smart.
Art Smart right there.
And there's Davis, who's next.
Yeah. Eugene DePaulis. Davis owns a print shop there in California. Oh, this was,
Next one down there,
Sizemore, yeah.
Isn't it 62, 63?
I'd say this is probably 62 right there.
62.
Yeah.
Doug Palmer.
There's Doug Gray.
Oh yeah, Doug Gray. That's right. Doug Gray.
Doug Gray and Gray Elderman is there.
Yeah, the elderman with the white
These
hair
are-
with his head down.
These are-
Howard's next to him? One of the Howard's guys.
These were the guys that were the hunks when I was in high school. This was about 1961, 62.
That's a big good. That was me rowing past Santa Monica Pier. I got so stoked. Brennan McClellan really was responsible for me being a lifeguard. He, when I was about 6 years old, I got stung by a bee at Sleepy Hollow, and my mom took me down to the main tower. It was about 1940 something or other during the war. Brennan was a lifeguard there, and he came out and he took the stinger out, put something on, and told me it wouldn't hurt anymore. And it didn't. It was just amazing. I don't know what he put on, but probably it was a placebo effect. And at that point, he had a rescue. He grabbed his can and his pins, and he went charging out into the surf, and he brought back this person. And I was this little toddler, and I was so impressed. I couldn't move. I had to stay there for the rest of the day. I made my mom go, leave me. And I just stayed there and watched them. And I decided I'd be a guard. Well, they were all great rowers. Dave Tawney has stories and legends have been told about one of the rescues that he made. Got me so stoked. I jumped in my dory one week. I was the city's first permanent guard, and they gave me a week off right after the end of the season. I jumped in my boat and I rode from Santa Barbara to Laguna. So that was taken by Tommy Zahn, who was a real famous lifeguard from Santa Monica. This is the Sea Cub program. These were the junior guards, and we had the old cans, and I put on the old uniform, and we showed them all the different ways that they had done life saving. It was sort of a beach orientation for youngsters. And it was a real good program, ran all through the 60s. And when did you guys jump Sea Cubs?
No, it's still going strong.
Mermaids are going.
Mermaids, Sea Cubs, and Junior Guards. So the kids can still get involved in an ocean orientation program. The parents love it. As a matter of fact, this summer we're already completely booked out. We're not taking any more of the children into it. And from 8 to 10 years old, they're either a Sea Cub or a Mermaid. And then from 11 through 15, they're Junior Guards. So it's still a super program for us, and it gets the local kids oriented to the ocean, the rocks, how to deal with the waves, the rip currents, the inshore holes. And it's a super program to have the kids go through, whether they plan on becoming lifeguards or not.
I think, Dale, weren't you instrumental in Sea Cubs, you and Cunningham?
Cunningham, yeah.
You started.
What we try to do is to start a program where the kids can start at 8, and by the time they were 18.
Come on up so they can hear you. Tell us a little bit about it.
I teach now, so I've always been a teacher, even when I was little. But when I came down here to Laguna, I saw all these local kids that wanted to be lifeguards, but bottom line, they really couldn't swim very well. I came from a swimming background. So I told them, I'll start a swimming program for you, a lifeguarding program. We'll start at 8. John Cunningham took the little guys, and they went 8 to 10 or 11. Basically, they had to be able to swim around the buoy. Once they swam around the buoy, then they came into my program, and then we did that for a few years, and then we developed this rookie program. So bottom line, a kid could come in at 8, and by the time we put him out on his own beach all by himself, he had 10 years worth of training. So the kid was really well trained. You know, he knew exactly what we wanted, he knew exactly what to do.
We really owe a
That's
lot
where that whole thing came from.
to Ed and George, Dave, for the kind of inspiration they gave us as kids, all of us who were local kids and grew up here. I went away, I didn't go to school in Laguna. My mom sent me off to the military school when I was 6 years old, so I went into the Army very young.
Poor thing.
But every summer I would come down, and we didn't, they had an informal junior lifeguard program when I was in my early teens, 13, 14. I tried to find some of the photos that I have from that period, but for another time. I've got some great shots. But it's always been a real inspiration, and it's also given Laguna a very unique capacity to turn out really good lifeguards. I think I'll let Mark tell you a little bit about how we are trained, what it means, and how intense that training is. You probably don't realize this, but Laguna has the most comprehensive and intense training program in the United States and probably the world for lifeguards. So I'll let Mark tell you a little bit about that.
Yeah, we'll kind of move on slide-wise. I think we get into some of it. And, here's just a lineup of some of the testing that we do. all of you, I think, are aware of the physical capabilities and everything, but a lot of the testing, they have to go through written examinations, they have to go through practical examinations, and currently we run our trainings 4 consecutive weekends in May. We wrap it up this Saturday. It's a 70-plus hour training. It's the longest lifeguard training on the coast right now, and it's due to our environment. Rocky, isolated coves. We are the busiest lifeguard department on the coast per capita. In other words, for every 1,100 people that come to the city of Laguna Beach, we make 1 rescue. For every 84 people that come to the city of Laguna Beach, we do a preventative action to keep them from getting into a dangerous situation. The other departments don't have that type of record. Our ordinance advisements, municipal code violations and things. So Laguna is a very, very unique spot lifeguarding wise. Here's some of our rock training that we have to do. Again, because of our rocky, isolated coast, we have to train them specifically to make rescues in the critical rock areas. I know every lifeguard sitting here, whether it's George Griffin from 1929 all the way up to the newcomer here, have had some very critical life-saving rescues in these rocky areas, in these currents and all. So just doing a little lifeguard maintenance on this famous landmark, the tower. Very few changes over the years from when it came over. Did we decide when it got over there? No. Finally? What did we narrow it down to? Let's see.
35.
35. Okay, 1935. A few changes over the years, but basically the same tower, the same structure that came over in 1935 is still serving us today. They run Dale Gear's rookie program out of it in the summer. As you know, the Lifeguard Association built a new lifeguard headquarters after the old boardwalk was torn down, and the boys club that we worked out of was torn down with it. The city of Laguna Beach channeled their funds into the trolley instead of the lifeguard headquarters that they promised, so we built our own lifeguard headquarters down there. That pretty much, I believe, wraps up the slideshow. If anyone wants to throw out any,
You got
George,
some real Laguna history here. These are the people that made the beach part of Laguna, the beach. Captain?
I would really appreciate it if, when you speak, you just come up to the podium. It's not a big public thing, but I'd like to get you on tape for posterity, please.
That'd be great. Come on, George.
You just come up and give us your name.
I know I'm the oldest one.
Okay, come on. All right.
You look so
My point is,
Can I have your name?
Yeah, I'm Catherine Petty.
Aha.
And I was born and raised in Laguna Beach.
Thank you.
And that was a long time ago when I was starting. But the point that I wanted to make was, you started out with the year when the first lifeguard. Well, my husband was the first lifeguard. In 1926 and 7. He was out here going to Pomona College Summer School. And in the afternoons, he would, N.E. West hired him to be a lifeguard. And so that's how long lifeguarding has gone on.
26.
He used to work just a few hours, and of course he was supposed to get paid for it, but he seldom did. Anyway.
Did you work at the Maine? Right at Ocean Avenue there at the bathhouse?
Oh, yes, there was an old bathhouse there that N.E. West was running, and he worked for him. And he tells the story one day, Gus Durkham, the Durkham family were all, they were on
Let me tell some stories about the doctors.
Gus, and he had to go out, so there was somebody out from beyond the breakers who was in trouble. This was an old, big, heavy boat. And of course, Gus Durkin was as strong as an ox. And he was rowing, and my husband was doing whatever they had to do to get out there. And the big breaker came along and just took them. And Chuck said he was scared to death because he came to the surface and there was no Gus. He looked all around, he couldn't find Gus. The boat was upside down. All of a sudden he noticed that the boat was moving toward the sand. And here, as soon as he got his feet on the sand, Gus lifted this boat. He was stronger than ox. And he lifted the boat up. And here he was under it. Well, that's just one of the stories he told me about.
Thank you so much.
We'll take it in chronological order.
Go ahead, George. Come on, George.
What's George's last name? What's George's last name?
Chuck Gabby, as you just heard, was the first lifeguard. My claim to fame is I was the first paid lifeguard.
Could I get your name?
George S. Griffith,
Aha.
330 Cliff Drive.
Thank you.
Anyhow, I have prepared a couple of things here that one is for the Historical Society if they want it, and the other one is for the lifeguard tower people if they want it.
Oh, how wonderful.
Copies of 5 pages of city council meetings. And the one that was referred to earlier is this one here, which tells about the $75 a month when we were going to have paid lifeguards. Blah, blah, blah.
Did you have those from originally, or did you get copies from the city?
I got these from City Hall.
Yeah.
I gave you some. I gave him this pic. This is the original lifeguard. This is Graham Clifford Smith, and this is George S. Griffith. Now, Jimmy was 2 years older. I was 19, and Jimmy was 21, so he was the head man. And I tried to get him to come to a meeting here 4 or 5 years ago, but unfortunately he couldn't make it, and he died 3 years ago. But one of the things that he said to me, and I was amused by Eddie's picture of that whole gang trying to launch that boat. And Jimmy says, I bet they don't launch those boats individually. Jimmy insisted that we had to close the dory alone. No help, no Dana Lamb, no anybody else. It was sort of fun. Goof Malone was down there playing around with us too at the time. Anyhow, it's interesting to note in these things if you look at them. Now, line of line, did I say? No, I think it was, I lied, it was $80, but I'm $82.50. This lists, when I was paid, when Graham was paid, and it also lists some interesting things. Judge got $175 a month, chief of police. He's on this one. But anyway, this is the first one, second, third, fourth, fifth. I think you'll have fun looking at them. They were checked. Yeah.
Didn't they name Johnson Street, which is Shadow Lane now, after Chief Johnson?
I know.
Because we had a lot there, and I remember that he lived there.
He was quite a guy. I don't know, how long was he around there?
32 to 35.
Abe?
Oh,
Abe. He was, when I was there, he was 29. He was chief of police.
Abe Johnson,
I think I have it.
Yeah, A. Johnson Jr.
Abe Johnson Wayne.
Thank you so much.
Is that yours? I don't know. I don't think so. That's for the Historical Society. These are contributors if you want.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks.
All right.
That's wonderful.
You'll also note that Art Stamp is in there. remember Archstead, the city engineer, gives his salary, gives all the interesting things that we spend our money for those days.
It's interesting that you guys took a big jump in salary. When you look at the records, they were making like 125 and 29 in early part of 29, but by 30 they cut that in half because of the crash. So there was this enormous dump in wages for them. They literally cut them in half. So the next summer, the guys that came back to guard were only making about 50% of what they made the summer before. The Depression was then in full force. And you guys did a great job. Never lost, no matter what they paid you, still carried through. And every one of these guys, too, has made probably 50 rescues since that time, just being on the beach. I know Dale has made 3 or 4 that I am aware of. Day, you've made rescues since then. And they would just have acted as kind of the eyes and ears for the off season. So they're all heroes who continue.
Of course, we were lucky. There were only 2 of us. What do you have now? 70 or something like that?
Mark.
75 for the whole season.
Well, we were just the main things. The help people who did hold out for stiffs, and when they were clear down the Gulf Island, or they were up the coast at divers or something like that.
So when they did have run, you had to wait until the corner gets you.
I have a little something that digresses just a bit from lifeguarding. Like it's so typical of a kid in like this. Old Laguna. And I have several copies, not too many, but I'm going to ask somebody to read it because I'm not too good in that department these days.
Mark is this.
Do it there, Craig. I'll try.
Wow. Read it loud.
And here, and here. Now, a lot of the old timers will recognize this character.
This is when justice was swift by Judge Robert Gardner.
Oh, yes.
During the 1950s, California underwent something called a judicial reform, and as a result, Orange County lost its justices of the peace. These JPs, usually laymen, were replaced by lawyers at municipal courts. And as the result, we lost some wonderfully colorful characters. One of the most colorful was the Justice of the Peace for Laguna Beach Township, the Honorable C. Gravy Cravat. Pardon. Gabby was what my father would have called a fine figure of a man. Big, husky, broad-shouldered. He stood ramrod straight, and as far as I know, never sat down. He even wrote in a stand-up desk. He was a handsome man with ruddy complexion, craggy features, short-cropped white hair, short-cropped white mustache, and fierce blue eyes. When he spoke, he did so with distinctive raspy tones that seemed to be typical of the shortstops and second basemen. This was probably because Gabby had come to the judicial structure not by way of Harvard Law School, but by way of big league baseball. Benjamin Cardozo, he was not, but his cactus cravat, pardon me. He'd been the first home run king of big league baseball. When he retired to Laguna Beach, he was promptly elected Justice of the Peace. Gabby was fair, he was honest, he was fearless, he was just, and after all, you can't ask much more of a man than that from a judge. He had a wonderfully honed sense of right and wrong, together with some kind of built-in radar that led him to the right answers in spite of all the legal complexities in the case. Pardon me for stumbling here. Cold reading. In those days, an appeal from the Justice Court resulted in a new trial in the Superior Court. I have no recollection that any Superior Court judge, with all of his vast knowledge of the law, ever came to a different conclusion in a case appealed from the Laguna Beach Justice Court that had Judge Gabby, with all of his legal shortcomings, appointed. Gabby had a way of cutting through the underbrush and getting to the heart of the matter in a somewhat embarrassingly direct way. For example, one day a particularly obnoxious citizen rushed into Gabby's courtroom and demanded that he issue a complaint against another citizen for disturbing the peace. He said that another citizen had called him a son of a bitch, and without even looking up, Gabby replied, "Well, you are." Gabby's distaste for some of the law's niceties was a matter of some concern to the legal community. And one day, I was sitting in his courtroom with George Boyd, a motorcycle officer from Santa Ana Police Department. Gabby asked George if he was going to Santa Ana. George said he was, and Gabby asked if he would mind taking a prisoner to the county jail. George Boyd was another free soul, and he agreed. In a few minutes, an officer brought a man who was obviously the town drunk. From his appearance, he was just one jump from going into DT's. Gabby said, "Pete, you hop on the back of George's bike and he'll take you up to the county jail for a few days to dry out." Pete, obviously no stranger to court procedures, protested, "You can't do that." Gabby, hell, I ain't even been arraigned yet. You want me to go on?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not a great cold reader.
You're doing wonderfully.
Gabby fixed Pete with his fiercest look and growled, "Now look here, Pete. You know you were drunk. I know you were drunk. Now we're not going to waste any of the taxpayers' money at any goddamn trial. Get on that goddamn motorcycle and go to jail for a few days and dry out." Pete paused a moment, thought full of shaky meditation, finally grinned, shrugged, and hopped on the bike with George. Now, another time when I was in the district attorney's office, I was slated to go to Laguna Beach for a preliminary hearing for a defendant charged with burglary. The phone rang. It was Gabby. "Bobby says, don't worry. Don't bother to come down for that preliminary." "Well, why not, Gabby?" I inquired. Gabby snorted, "Hell, I just put the guy in the witness stand, sweated out a confession, got him reduced to petty theft, fined him $50, and he left town." Again, end of lawsuit. Probably substantial justice. Most lawyers annoyed Gabby. He didn't dislike lawyers, but lawyers were simply a nuisance and cluttering up the courtroom, wasting valuable judicial time with objections and arguments. Gabby had a favorite and uncomfortable way of expressing his distaste for the legal profession. After the taking of evidence, the judge instructs the jury as to the law. Now, in those days, we made up our own instructions. Now it's all done with a handy little book. But under the old system, you would spend countless hours in the law library preparing instructions that told the jury that your side of the case was right. Your opponent was doing the same thing. Then you both handed your sets of instructions to the judge and hoped he would read yours to the jury. Gabby would have none of this nonsense. He would look at his awesome stack of papers for a moment, shake his head in disgust, and in full view of the jury, throw all these wonderful works of legal art into the wastebasket. And Gabby would turn to the jury and say something like this: "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant is charged with stealing $50 from Mr. Jones. I certainly hope you've lived long enough to know that stealing means, without my spending a couple of hours telling you the fine legal distinctions in the law on the theft. So stealing means exactly what it says. The district attorney has the responsibility of proving that the defendant is guilty of theft beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. If he hasn't carried that burden, you are to acquit the defendant. You have heard the evidence. There are only the only ones who can decide who is telling the truth and who is not. Now, retire, deliberate, and come to a decision." As I look over the above, it's not bad. Frankly, it's a lot better than the countless hours of hair-splitting refinements and nitpicking redundancies I inflicted on juries throughout my years as a trial judge under the guise of instructing them in the applicable law. However, in spite of Gabby's legal eccentricities, he was a man of heart and sensitivity and of compassion. I saw a good example of this one day when I was sitting in his court. The officers brought into the courtroom a young man who was handcuffed and marched in every way known to law enforcement. He had more chains on him than a logging truck. The prisoner had been arrested the night before after a headline-making police chase following a traffic accident. He was charged with assault with a deadly weapon on the police officers by the use of his car, felony drunk driving, felony hit and run, resisting arrest, speeding, reckless driving, disturbing the peace, and every other crime an immovable desk sergeant had, an innovative desk sergeant had been able to glean from the various criminal codes. I don't think I've ever seen a more demoralized human being. hung over, under, twitching, trembling. He was completely beat down. Gabby instructed the officers to unman for him. And then in his fierce blue eyes softened. Listen, son, you think you're in trouble. I've been in more trouble in my time than you can get into if you live to be 100. Toss the young man a coin. Run down to bed, get a cup of coffee, and when you come back, we'll take up your problems. The officers were aghast at the release of their prize prisoner. But Gabby scowled in a submission. The youngster tottered out. Frankly, I never expected to see him again. Scared as he was, I, together with the officers, thought that he would either make a run for it or drown himself.